The male protagonist and the esteemed President Juicy arrived at the orphanage in search of his daughter. The male lead, with an expression of indifference, remarked, "So, you are the daughter of Shinwoo? You bear a striking resemblance to me." Timidly, I extended my hand toward him. Beside us, the antagonist in the wheelchair exhibited a fleeting glimmer of despondence in his eyes. Suddenly, a cascade of text floated before my eyes. Little sister is yet unaware that she is, in fact, the sole biological daughter of President Juicy. Shortly after the male lead adopted her, the female lead became pregnant. And out of jealousy, the little sister pushed the female lead down the staircase. In a fit of rage, the male lead cast her back to the orphanage. The little sister, in tears, attempted to flee back home but was ultimately abducted along the way. Such a pity, for President Juicy has but one daughter in his lifetime. Had he known that the child of his cherished one was his own, perhaps he would not have so prematurely concluded his own existence. With a sudden burst of determination, I wrenched my hand from the male lead's grasp and, with my little legs in motion, sprinted to the man in the wheelchair, exclaiming with fervor, "Father, at long last, I have awaited your arrival." Lu Jinghe gazed at me, his expression intricate. "I am not your father." The onlookers murmured softly, "That girl is truly trying to gain attention. Who isn't aware that President Liu lost his ability to procreate after that car accident? So, are you seeking death? Moreover, President Liu is here to search for his first love's child. I heard it's a boy." The beautiful secretary intercepted me, her tone somewhat grave. "Young lady, please do not get too close to President Liu." I brushed past her, seizing Lu Jinghe's large hand and placing it against my face, my expression sincere. "Father, look how much I resemble you." On the side, when Su's face darkened, he turned my shoulder towards him. "I am your father. Your mother, Shinwoo, got pregnant without informing me and vanished for 5 years." I looked at his sullen face, feeling a twinge of fear as I retreated slightly. "No, you're not." Ignoring my protest, when Su scooped me up, intending to seek out the headmistress for adoption procedures, I struggled fiercely, yet could not escape the man's strong embrace. Lu Jinghe observed the scene, suddenly speaking. "Wait," he stated in a low voice, "I want her." The expressions of the crowd shifted dramatically, especially the secretary beside Lu Jinghe, whose face turned a shade of green. When Su frowned, "But President Liu, you clearly know she is my daughter. How can President Wen prove that?" I joyfully wriggled free from Wen Su's grasp and rushed toward him. "Father." Lu Jinghe bent down to catch me, securely placing me on his lap. He prepared to leave with me. Wen Su's voice dripped with sarcasm. Shinwoo had only one man in her life. If the child isn't mine, then whose could it be? Sitting in Lu Jinghe's embrace, I felt his body tense momentarily. He then spoke lightly. "Then I suggest President Wen discuss this with my lawyer." 2. How wonderful! I finally have a father. I was elated throughout the journey. Perhaps it was merely my imagination, but the secretary seemed to harbor a dislike for me. She sat in the passenger seat, casting me several disapproving glances. "President Liu, holding the child may be inconvenient. Why not let me take her?" the secretary suggested gently. Instinctively, I nestled closer to my father, burying my face in his embrace. He patted my head. "No need, let her be." The Liu residence was vast and imposing. Such a splendid house, one I had only seen on television. Gazing at the polished floor tiles and then at my grimy shoes, I couldn't help but feel a sense of awkwardness. "Hey bro, why are you bringing another man's daughter home?" A languid voice chimed in, tinged with jest. "Aren't you afraid of a beating?" I looked up to see a young man, somewhat resembling my father, approach. He wore a loose, comfortable gray sweater, was quite tall, and had long legs. So handsome. I stared at him in awe. The man tousled my hair. "You must be Shinwoo's daughter?" I nodded. "Those eyes are just like hers." He was strikingly attractive, but his smile had a mischievous edge. "What's your name, little girl?"
Shen An.
"Where's your mother?" I lowered my head, biting my lip, remaining silent. My father's deep voice resonated. "From now on, do not speak nonsense in front of Anan. If you do so again, you can forget about driving a race car." The man raised an eyebrow, scooping me up and placing me on his arm. All right, I'll protect her." "Seems like you've forgotten your dear brother now that you have a daughter." He pinched my cheek. "Little Anan, let me introduce myself. I am your father's brother. You should call me uncle." I clutched the hem of my clothes, my face turning crimson as I murmured, "Hello, Uncle." He paused, then burst into laughter. "Aside from that annoying biological father, you're quite adorable." Lu Jingye. My father warned with a hint of menace. All right, I won't say another word." Lu Jingye carried me upstairs. "Uncle will show you your room. It's a super beautiful princess room." I wrapped my arms around his neck, obediently nodding. By the way, as we ascended the spiral staircase, he suddenly seemed to recall something. Turning back, "Does Grandma know about adopting Inan? You know how stubborn and traditional she is. She probably wouldn't accept Inan." My father fell silent for a moment. "I will handle this matter. You take Inan upstairs." I detected a hint of uncertainty in my father's tone, tightening my heart. Did my father's grandmother not like me? 3. With this worry weighing on my mind, I spent the entire night in turmoil, unable to fall asleep. Even though the bed here was larger and softer than those in the rental house and orphanage, and it smelled delightful, I felt a profound sadness. If only my mother were here. I clutched the corner of the blanket, feeling despondent. Wherever my mother was, I would never have to fear being cast aside. Outside, thunder roared, and rain poured incessantly, accentuating my smallness and vulnerability. The bullet comments drifted by quietly. "Don't let the usually calm and composed President Juezi fool you. He is actually terrified of thunderstorm weather. The horrific car accident 15 years ago cost him his parents and left him with a leg ailment. Whenever such weather strikes, he suffers from intense pain and persistent fever. Fearing discovery by others, he consistently locks himself in his room under the guise of work, forbidding anyone from disturbing him." Outside, the thunder crashed, reverberating in my ears. I trembled at the sound. Did my father fear thunderstorms too? If I was frightened, he must be even more so.
No.
I must comfort him. Clutching my small blanket resolutely, I leaped from the bed. After a moment's thought, I grabbed the uneaten potato chips. Stealthily, I opened the door, tiptoeing down the long hallway until I reached my father's door. I tried to twist the doorknob and opened it a crack. In the dim light of the night, my father lay on the bed, motionless, appearing quite sorrowful. I stood before him, extending my hand to tenderly stroke his face. My father's body stiffened. He slowly opened his eyes. A flash of lightning split the sky, illuminating my small figure. I broke into a warm smile.
Whoa.
My father recoiled suddenly, crashing onto the floor. The lights flicked on. "Daddy," he stumbled to his feet, staring at me in shock. My eyes squinted against the bright light. And gripping half a bag of chips, I innocently said, "Daddy, I came to comfort you." For Uncle swiftly scooped me up, tucking me under his arm. Barefoot, he hurried to the opposite side of the hallway, knocking on my father's door and thrusting me into his arms, his expression fierce, his tone exasperated. "Take care of your daughter. Don't let her stand by your bed in the middle of the night like Ju and Xiong." My father, still processing the situation, looked at me in confusion. I looked up at him, beaming. "Daddy, I came to keep you company." "Father." The bullet comments erupted in laughter. "Ha, the little treasure caused such a huge mess on her first day here." "Uncle, I can't even be bothered with your Ju and Xiong daughter." "Father, why does it always rain in my world?" "Uncle, what kind of rain?" It's my exasperation. Heaven knows how terrified Uncle is of Kayako. At 21, after watching Juan, he clung to the president's bed for half a month, insisting on being accompanied to the bathroom at night. My father carried me back to my own room. He placed me on the bed, tucked me in, and "Be good, sleep first. Daddy has a bit of work to attend to." I observed my father's pale face, slightly weary. His hands felt so warm. The words spoken were indeed true. Father was suffering from a fever. Just as he had settled me comfortably, he intended to retreat to his study. In a moment of desperation, I tumbled from the bed. Wincing in pain, "Father, I am afraid of the thunder. Could you stay with me?" Generally, adults tend to be concerned about appearances. Even when frightened, they strive to feign bravery. However, as a child, I was unencumbered by such concerns. Father hesitated for a moment. Sitting on the floor, I wiped away the non-existent tears. With a sigh, he lifted me from the ground and placed me back on the bed, lying down beside me. I gazed at him with my wide, sparkling eyes. "Father, may I tell you a story?" He replied, I recounted several tales, but soon found myself at a loss for words. Yet, Father remained alert. showing no signs of fatigue. I leaned over to his pillow. Father, may I sing you a song? I sang softly, gently patting his back just as mother used to do. As I sang, weariness began to wash over me. I earnestly wished to comfort father, but the drowsiness overwhelmed me. Sleep now, my dear treasure. A gentle hand tucked the covers around me and brushed my forehead. I sniffled. Father, do not be afraid. A UN will always be by your side. Father remained silent for a long while before murmuring, outside. The thunder seemed a little less frightening. In the morning I awoke, my consciousness still hazy. I could faintly hear the sound of uncle and father arguing outside the door. Brother, tell me the truth. Did you adopt a UN in preparation for acquiring the Wen family soon? After all, she is the biological daughter of Wen Su. Adopting her is akin to securing a hostage to deter the Wen family. Don't tell me you adopted her simply because she is Shan Wu's daughter. Brother, when have you ever engaged in a losing business deal? I pushed the door open, yawning. The conversation abruptly ceased. Uncle and father turned to face me, their expressions awkward and stiff. Rubbing my sleepy eyes, I asked in confusion, Father? He guided his wheelchair towards me, ruffling my hair gently. First, go brush your teeth with Aunt Lee, and later, I will take you to see great-grandmother. The ugly granddaughter always had to meet great-grandmother. I gritted my teeth and nodded. After freshening up, I followed Aunt Lee downstairs to the dining hall. A stern, elderly voice emerged from behind the screen. Jingha suffered injuries in a car accident years ago, which harmed his ability to have children. How could he suddenly have a daughter? Could it be that some woman is harboring an illegitimate child, seeking to gain favor? I've seen many cunning and unscrupulous women like that. Lu Jingya interjected, Mother, a UN is a child adopted from the orphanage by my brother. Great-grandmother scoffed. Don't think I don't know. She is the daughter of Shen Wu and that young man from the Wen family. If you choose to raise her, at least raise someone manageable. What does it mean to snatch someone else's girl? I don't care. Within 5 days, you must return her to the Wen family. The comments flooded in with indignation. This is too much. How can they treat our little sister like this? Great-grandmother is more anxious than anyone. The eldest grandson cannot have children, while the younger grandson has the ability but refuses to marry, insisting on being child-free. If great-grandmother knew that the little sister was her biological great-granddaughter, she would likely be overjoyed to the point of losing her dentures. Well, those are false teeth anyway. I stood there, stunned. Great-grandmother claimed that mother sought to gain favor. But mother has already passed away. Father noticed my presence, his brow furrowing slightly as he cast a reproachful glance at Aunt Lee. She quickly apologized. Father took my hand and led me to the dining table, gently instructing, say good morning to great-grandmother. I timidly raised my head. The elderly lady before me had her silver hair neatly styled, clad in a black qipao, adorned with a long string of pearls around her neck. She tilted her chin slightly, not looking at me. I whispered, good morning, great-grandmother. Great-grandmother glanced at me, her eyes lingering on my earlobe for a few seconds before shifting away. Father's tone grew serious, grandmother. Only then did great-grandmother respond. All right, let us eat. Uncle pressed me into a chair, placing a small dumpling in my bowl, cheerfully saying, don't be afraid, Ayun. Great-grandmother simply woke up too early and is a bit grumpy. I received my fair share of scoldings from her when I was little. Great-grandmother shot Uncle a glare. I lowered my head and ate from my bowl. The truth was I knew. Great-grandmother did not like me, and neither did Uncle. They both believed I was not Father's child. No matter how much I insisted, it seemed no one would believe me. So, I would cherish these 5 days spent with Father. It was all right. Even if it was only 5 days, it was still wonderful. At least I knew I had a father, and when other children mocked me, I could proudly retort, I, Shena Yuan, am not an orphan. Swallowing the bitterness lodged in my throat, I looked up to find Father attempting to pick the carrots out of his salad. Great-grandmother disapproved, Jingha, no picky eating. Yes, Father. One must not be a picky eater. I nodded. Mother said carrots are very nutritious. If a Yuan does not drink milk, she won't grow tall. And if you do not eat carrots, Father, you too will not grow tall. All eyes turned to Father. Lu Jingha glanced at the carrots in his bowl and, with some difficulty, placed them in his mouth. He then forced himself to swallow. The CEO has never liked vegetables since childhood, only eating meat, leading to a deficiency in vitamins. Great-grandmother has exerted considerable effort to ensure the CEO consumes carrots. Carrot corn rib soup, stir-fried carrot shreds, oil-braised carrots, carrot braised rice. After decades of subtle rivalry, it was unexpected that little sister could make the CEO swallow them with just 2 sentences. Great-grandmother's feelings were undoubtedly complex. In order to treasure these hard-earned 5 days, I stayed close to father, yearning to spend as much time with him as possible, to observe his features and etch them firmly in my memory. Father hesitated several times, as if on the verge of saying something, but upon meeting my gaze, he withdrew. In the afternoon, father was engaged in a video conference in his study. I busied myself nearby, playing house with his trophies and antique porcelain. From the video, I could see uncle and aunt sneaking glances at me, exchanging surprised looks. As the meeting progressed, father grew restless, rubbing his fingers together, unconsciously reaching for the cigarette box on the table. Suddenly, he realized something and looked down at me. I blinked. Father pursed his lips, reluctantly setting the cigarette down. The people in the video exchanged knowing glances, their lips curling up with barely contained amusement. Ultimately, father sent me outside. I was in the courtyard, catching goldfish when I spotted great-grandmother in the distance, seated in a rocking chair, engrossed in a book. She wore reading glasses, leaning in closely, seemingly straining to read. I approached her softly, asking, "Great-grandmother, do you need help reading? Have you been to school?" "Not yet." "If you haven't been to school, how can you recognize any words?" I stared at my toes. Mother taught me many words before she passed. She said I was wonderful and had a photographic memory. Photographic memory? Great-grandmother appeared taken aback. That is indeed similar to Jingha. I held the book and began reading aloud with clarity. Great-grandmother's expression gradually became intricate. After finishing a few pages, my throat felt parched. "All right, drink some water to moisten your throat." Great-grandmother handed me a teacup from beside her. She sighed. If only Jingha could truly have a child. Have you all noticed how much President Liu has changed since Missinen came to our home?
Indeed.
President Liu used to be a quintessential workaholic, living like a robot programmed to follow a set routine. Now it's different. He makes 5 or 6 calls home each day, constantly monitoring Missinen's whereabouts, and he returns home earlier by the day. You wouldn't believe it. But Missinen reads to the old lady every day, and even helps her with leg massages and tea. That little short-legged girl is so attentive. It makes me quite fond of her. The old lady is smiling more and more, although she always pretends to maintain a stern expression when she notices. Alas, it's a pity that Missinen is not President Liu's biological daughter. The old lady certainly would not tolerate President Liu raising another's child. I sat in the hall watching television while a few servants whispered in the corner. I counted on my fingers and realized that tomorrow would be the last day. Coincidentally,
It was also my birthday.
I took a few deep breaths, suppressing the welling emotion in my nose. Looking on the bright side, at least this year I could celebrate my birthday with my father. The next morning, I clung to my father's neck, snuggling into his embrace.
Dad.
Can you take me to the amusement park today? Today? My father's voice was laced with amusement. I need to check the schedule with my secretary. Oh, I said, my head drooping in disappointment, only to lift it again with hope. Then can you come home early today? Is that all you want to do? After all, this might be the last time. My father pondered for a few seconds, lifting me up by my arms. Then Anin will go with Uncle this morning, and I'll come to find you at noon. I cheered and threw myself at my father. Mom, my childhood wish is finally about to come true. As noon approached, the sun rose higher in the sky. I sat on Uncle's shoulders, holding a bunch of balloons. Lu Jingye set me down on a wicker chair outside the ice cream shop, wiping the sweat from his brow. My little ancestor, have you really never been to an amusement park? You want to play with everything you see? I nodded, yes. Suddenly, Uncle seemed to realize something, his expression momentarily stunned. He turned his head and coughed into his hand, resignedly saying, "All right, you stay here while I go buy you some ice cream." I happily agreed. However, after waiting for quite a while, Uncle still hadn't returned. I stood up, glancing around. A young boy in white approached me, extending a cone. "Little girl, are you Shininen?"
I didn't take it.
Mom said not to accept gifts from strangers. The screen was filled with excited comments. Ah, Wenishwan. The character stealing aside from the cold-blooded CEO. Gentle, clean, upright. He and his brother Wen-su are simply two extremes. If he were to raise a little girl, their daily life would surely be warm and adorable. Hee, waiting for them to grow up together. This was the first time I saw such a lively reaction in the comments. Looking closely, the elder brother in front of me was handsome, with a gentle demeanor. He certainly didn't seem like a bad person. Reluctantly, I accepted his ice cream cone. When Ishwan bent down to pick me up, a smile playing on his lips. I heard you are my brother's daughter? I instinctively retorted, I'm not your brother's daughter, I'm Lu Jinghe's daughter. When Ishwan chuckled, Lu Jinghe can't possibly have you. I asked in confusion, why not? The comments kept saying Dad was a cold-blooded CEO. I knew what a CEO was. But what does cold-blooded mean? Does it mean lame? When Ishwan fell silent for a moment, you're too young for me to explain. He playfully pinched my cheek. By the way, you can consider me your uncle. Brother, can you help me find Uncle Lu Jinghe? I got lost from him. Call me uncle. Uncle brother. Can you help me contact my dad? I remember his number. It's uncle, not brother. But you look so young, not like an uncle. Uncle is the title based on our generational relationship. Then uncle brother. When will you take me to find my dad? When Ishwan squeezed his eyes shut tightly, taking a deep breath. I'll take you to him right now. Ha ha ha. Every sentence has a response, yet no agreement. Little girl, does that mean your name is uncle, brother? That year, alas, her eyes were filled with thoughts of Dad. At my insistence, we circled the shop. But uncle was nowhere to be found. I had no choice but to follow Ishwan to another place. In the distance, I spotted a familiar figure. I was initially elated, thinking I would finally see my dad. But as I drew closer, I realized it was Wen-su. When Ishwan set me down and gently instructed, then, be good and go find your dad. Wen-su squatted down, extending his hand towards me. Then come here, to daddy. I stood still, hesitating. The comments alerted me to the presence of Wen-su's beloved, Wan-shi, standing beside him. She paused momentarily upon seeing me, but then bent down with a gentle smile. Hello, Anan, I'm your dad's girlfriend. You can call me Aunt Shishi. I tugged at Ishwan's sleeve, looking up at him. Brother, when will Dad come to pick me up? Wen-su's face visibly darkened. He coldly said, Anan, I am your father, your biological father. I lowered my head, biting my lip in silence. Has your mother never told you who your real father is? I hesitated, slowly responding. Mom said Dad is a very kind and gentle person, and it was her fault. I looked at Wen-su, the rest of my sentence unspoken. But you don't seem gentle at all. In fact, you've been quite fierce. Wen-su snorted coldly. She knows she owes me. He approached and picked me up. Tell Daddy, where has your mother gone? I pressed my lips together. After a long pause, I finally said, Mom is already dead. Wen-su stiffened for a moment, then scoffed. What's this new trick? I did indeed give her to Lu Jinghe for a project back then, but that was because I knew Lu Jinghe wouldn't harm her. If she wanted revenge on me, why has she never come to find me all these years, secretly giving birth to my child? Hearing this, Wan-shi paled. Uncle, I'm not your child, I earnestly defended. I'm Lu Jinghe's child. Wen-su's eyes darkened with storm clouds, yet he laughed. Lu Jinghe is incapable of having children. That's a well-known secret in the capital.
Anan.
A familiar voice rang out from nearby, gentle yet powerful. I looked up, joyfully exclaiming, Dad. Lu Jinghe approached me in his wheelchair. Come here. I struggled to jump down. Wen-su had no choice but to set me down. I joyfully rushed into my father's embrace, letting him lift me onto his lap. Dad coldly glared at Wen-su and the others, abducting someone else's daughter in public. President Wen should expect a lawyer's letter. Why deceive yourself, President Lu? We all know Anan is my daughter. Dad remained calm. I refused to repeat myself. Unless President Wen can provide evidence, refrain from making baseless claims. You are obstructing Anan from undergoing a paternity test with me. Are you not simply fearful of the outcome? Wen-su's voice was laced with anger. Without the consent of the parties involved, President Wen lacks the authority to conduct a DNA test, and I, at present, am Anan's legal guardian. My father gently pinched my cheek, signaling to the assistant beside him to present an exquisite crown.
This is a gift from Daddy.
Do you like it? I nodded vigorously, my eyes sparkling with delight. It is simply breathtaking. The barrage of comments erupted in astonishment. This is no mere child's toy. It is a genuine ruby crown. A pure, natural pigeon blood red, its auction price was even reported by the media. The president casually gifted it to a 5-year-old child. I am utterly envious of this statement. Successfully securing a house, my defenses crumbled. My sweet little sister urged me to perform for 2 episodes. I swiftly placed the crown atop my father's head, exclaiming, "Daddy, wear it. You look so beautiful." An immediate silence enveloped the surroundings. "Is Daddy not beautiful?" I asked, puzzled. "Of course. President Liu is stunning," the assistant replied, his expression oddly contorted, with a smile that struggled to remain subdued. My father placed the crown back on my head, somewhat exasperated. "Come along, my little princess." As my uncle was momentarily detained in the restroom, he was surrounded by a group of individuals who accused him of stealing a girl's belongings. After a lengthy dispute, he rushed out in distress, only to discover my absence. Upon learning that I had been taken away by Wenixuan, my uncle cursed vehemently, determined to make the one family pay. My father is a man of his word. He accompanied me on the carousel and the Ferris wheel, and even on the thrilling rides of Leap to the Horizon and Buzz Lightyear's Galactic Rescue. Although there were numerous attractions he could not partake in, simply turning my head to see him nearby filled me with joy. The sky began to blush with the hues of dusk. I lifted my gaze to behold the stunning sunset clouds. The day was finally drawing to a close. I inhaled deeply, stifling the urge to weep. Today was truly a day of happiness, one I could cherish for a long time. My father, cradling a large Stitch plush toy, waved at me. I wiped away my tears, just as I was about to run towards him when a sudden gasp pierced the air. The comments kept warning me to be cautious. I turned to see a peculiar man careening through the crowd, pushing a stroller, causing people to scatter, though some were unfortunate enough to be knocked down by him. The man, exhilarated, shouted as he approached me. Suddenly, my father sprang from his wheelchair, rushing to my side, crouching down protectively. The stroller collided with his back, and he let out a muffled groan but remained steadfast. The man was swiftly subdued by security, his demeanor frantic, babbling incoherently in a language I couldn't understand. "Are you all right?" My father looked at me with concern. Behind him, my uncle stammered, "Brother, can you stand?" My father was taken to the hospital. After an examination, the doctor revealed that, following years of rehabilitation, my father was indeed capable of walking. His reliance on the wheelchair stemmed more from psychological barriers than physical limitations. After losing both parents in a tragic accident, he subconsciously felt unworthy of health. Yet this incident had awakened his instinct to protect his daughter, compelling him to confront his mental struggles. My uncle stood frozen, slowly processing the situation. "No way, I must inform Grandma immediately. My brother's legs have healed. Her eldest grandson can stand." He exited the examination room to make a phone call, while I joyfully embraced my father. "This is wonderful, Daddy. You are no longer the heir of a terminally ill president." My father's smile faltered momentarily. Nearby, the nurse and doctor glanced through medical records and tapped away at their keyboards, seemingly oblivious to my words. The comments erupted in laughter. My father's expression grew complex as he ruffled my hair. "Who's been referring to me in such a manner?" The once lively comments fell into an abrupt hush. I stared at my toes, feeling guilty and eager to change the subject. If only Mommy could see this, she would be so delighted. A flicker of emotion passed through my father's eyes. "Daddy, do you miss Mommy?" After a prolonged silence, he softly replied, "Yes. Actually, Mommy misses Daddy too. Has she ever mentioned me?" I nodded. "Mommy said that if she had met you first, it would have been perfect." Lu Jinghe paused, as if grasping a sudden realization, and turned to me with intensity. The comments revealed that, indeed, Mommy had harbored feelings for Wensu in her youth. At that time, she was still in university, her mother gravely ill and in dire need of surgery. Mommy met Wensu while working part-time at a bar. What followed was a cliched and melodramatic tale. Mommy's beauty reminded him of his lost love abroad. The bored young heir engaged in a game of seduction, charming and attentive, repeatedly coming to Mommy's aid during her troubles. Ultimately, he arranged for the best cardiologist in the country to perform surgery on her mother. Mommy, unable to resist, fell for him. Yet, unbeknownst to her, the moment she fell in love was the exact moment he lost interest. How tedious, Wensu thought at the time. Thus, he ceased to conceal his preferences. allowing various women to flirt and drape themselves affectionately upon him, their delicate arms entwined around his neck. Mommy felt utterly bewildered. She could not fathom his sudden transformation. An attractive model at the pool exclaimed, "Ah, President Wen, the diamond ring you gifted me has fallen." She covered her mouth, distressed. "What should I do? That was the ring you took from me at the charity gala, worth 3 million. Yet when Sue's gaze was fixed upon Mommy, "You, go help her retrieve it." He suddenly smiled. 3 million could save your mother's life several times over. Mommy fell silent, then made her way to the pool, donned in swimming goggles. Struggling to search in the vast water, everyone paused, some mocking, others looking down upon the scene. A torrential downpour began. The crowd dispersed. When Sue sat by the floor-to-ceiling window, champagne in hand, observing Mommy's slightly disheveled figure in the rain, until a man in a wheelchair appeared, signaling his bodyguards to pull Mommy from the pool, offering her a towel and a hot cup of coffee. Subsequently, a thorough search of the party's attendees ensued. Ultimately, the ring was discovered in the model's bag. When Sue observed the spectacle, a knowing smile curling at the corners of his lips. To secure a project in Beihai, when Sue gifted her to my father, he watched the pallor of Mommy's face gradually fade. "Shin-woo, after this, we shall consider ourselves even." The entire city was aware of Lu Jinghe's hidden affliction. After all, nothing significant would ensue. Mommy pondered seriously for a moment before responding, "All right. At the very least, she could escape the clutches of Wen-Su, the insufferable maniac." Lu Jinghe was unlike what she had imagined. He was gentle and courteous. During the half-month that Mommy resided in the Lu household, life was unexpectedly tranquil. She occupied the second floor, while he remained on the first. Lu Jinghe never intruded upon her space. His work kept him exceedingly busy, rarely at home, leaving them with scant opportunities to encounter one another. Their only shared moments were during breakfast and dinner. Seated at the same table, Lu Jinghe would offer her a slight nod, acknowledging her presence. She felt somewhat awkward. He would kindly inquire if she was comfortable with the arrangements, assuring her that she could speak to Aunt Chen about any concerns. One evening, clad in a silk nightgown, she descended the stairs for a glass of water, only to unexpectedly encounter Lu Jinghe brewing coffee. He was a workaholic, often burning the midnight oil. She paused momentarily. His gaze swept over her bare legs, just managing to avert his eyes before silently retreating to his study in his wheelchair. Is there truly a benefactor who avoids suspicion? My mother's face inexplicably flushed. The turning point of events unfolded during a business dinner. It remains a mystery as to which scoundrel slipped my mother a drug. They were aware that Lu Jinghe was unable to act humanely, and their intent was to humiliate her. When Xu Yuan observed her from a distance, a smirk gracing his lips as he raised his glass in a silent toast. He formed words with his lips that she deciphered. "I can help you." She swiftly turned and hastened out of the banquet hall, dialing a number. "Lu Jinghe, take me to the hospital." There was a brief silence on the other end before he replied, "All right." The effects of the drug were more potent than anticipated. Midway through the journey, my mother felt an overwhelming heat coursing through her body, gripping Lu Jinghe's arm tightly, her voice muffled. "Can we?" The last two words were obscured. Lu Jinghe gazed at her, hesitating before instructing the driver to the nearest hotel. The subsequent events were shrouded in obscurity, leaving me bewildered. Following that night, the bond between my mother and father deepened significantly. Despite his leg ailment, my father accompanied her to experience many long-desired activities, diving in Bali, skydiving on his private island, horseback hunting, and sea voyages. He taught her to pilot a helicopter and supported her in establishing her own design brand. It was perhaps the happiest period of her life. During this time, my grandmother passed away, and it was my father who helped her through the grief. It was until she discovered she was pregnant that matters took a turn. My mother had a peculiar constitution. Her menstrual cycle was always irregular, and she experienced occasional bleeding during pregnancy. With her small belly, she initially thought it was merely weight gain. By the time she realized, the doctor informed her that it appeared she was already over 6 months along. She was uncertain whose child it was, considering Lu Jinghe's inability to conceive. Based on the timeline, it could also be Wen-Su. The months had progressed too far for an abortion. In a state of confusion, my mother left a breakup letter and fled from the capital, choosing to give birth in a remote town. She did not know how to convey the truth to my father, nor did she believe any man could accept that the woman he cherished bore another S child. She wished to spare Lu Jinghe the pain, as well as her own child S. Until a tragic car accident claimed her life, I was sent to an orphanage.
12.
My mother left me a pocket watch. I retrieved the watch from around my neck and handed it over. The person in the photograph closely resembles my father. My father accepted the pocket watch and opened it. Inside was a photograph taken shortly before his accident, youthful and handsome, with a smile that radiated warmth. In those days, his eyes were devoid of the shadows that would later loom over him. He held the pocket watch, speechless for a long while. It was the least valuable among the gifts he had given Xinwu, yet it was the only item she had taken with her. Great-grandmother rushed in, flustered. Jinghe. Her voice trembled. My father rose from his wheelchair, moving slowly towards her, each step somewhat stiff. Yet, great-grandmother gazed at him with tears brimming in her eyes. He opened his arms and enveloped her in a heavy embrace.
Grandma.
Great-grandmother closed her eyes, tears streaming down the creases of her wrinkled cheeks. Even my usually unruly uncle had reddened eyes, turning away to cough a few times. Isn't it said that a father's love is profound? If it weren't for an S accident, who knows how many years my brother would have spent in that wheelchair. Grandmother wiped her tears, bending down to gently caress my face, and in is our family's little lucky star. 13. Perhaps great-grandmother was too elated. For several consecutive days, she forgot to mention sending me away. Just when I secretly rejoiced, believing I could avoid leaving, when Ishwan arrived with gifts. He politely bowed to the elders, his 15-year-old frame standing straight like a young sapling. I apologize for intruding. It is a matter of necessity.
You see,
my brother was in a car accident a few days ago. At the time, he had been arguing with Wan Shi while driving. Overwhelmed by grievances, she pretended to jump out of the car. He reached out to stop her, resulting in a collision with a small truck. The accident was not severe, yet it grievously injured him below the waist. The doctor informed them it could lead to permanent infertility, and in maybe my brother's only child in this lifetime. So, I must take her back to the Wen family. If Mr. Liu has any doubts, we can conduct a paternity test with my brother and then once the results are in, everything will be clarified. Before my father could respond, great-grandmother furrowed her brow. She scoffed, refuting with displeasure. An is the child that Jinghe legally adopted from the orphanage. You can't just demand a paternity test whenever you please. Why didn't you do this sooner? Moreover, it is evident how deeply An's mother and Jinghe loved each other. I can unequivocally assert that An is indeed our Jinghe's daughter. The old lady's words resonated with authority. My father and uncle were taken aback, gazing at her in astonishment. Great-grandmother pulled me into her embrace, covering my ears. You can't just snatch our child away just because your brother can't have children. When Ishwan paused momentarily, but maintained his composure, since Grandma Wen is so certain, a paternity test is even more necessary. Once the results are presented, the Wen family can finally let go. Great-grandmother was about to say something, but my father suddenly interjected. I agree to the paternity test. Uncle frowned, but brother-grandmother shot him a disapproving glance. What if there won't be a what if, my father said, looking at me with a steady, calm tone, and it will only be my daughter. 14. How wonderful. My father finally believes in me. He contacted a familiar biology professor and waited outside the lab for the test results. It would take at least 3 hours. Outside the laboratory, the roles had reversed. When Su sat in a wheelchair, bandaged and pale, as if he could drip water. Wan Shi beside him bore only minor injuries, but looked particularly haggard. Her expression cautious in front of Wen Su. The female lead felt guilty, realizing that had she not acted recklessly in the car, the male lead wouldn't have ended up like this. She felt both remorseful and regretful. This meant that her daughter would become the male lead's only child. It was evident that she had already considered giving up on the male lead, as she did not wish to live a lifetime in solitude. Once the male lead recovered, she planned to leave with the supporting male character abroad. This time, she would leave and never return. When Su spotted me, his expression softening slightly, and then, come to daddy. He beckoned me over. Seeing his pitiful state, I approached slowly, filled with sympathy for the disabled. When Su gently touched my face, his tone warm, Daddy knows he has wronged you and your mother before. Once the results are in, I will make it up to both of you. Hearing this, Wan Shi seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. It appeared she truly wished to sever ties with Wen-su. Mother is already gone, I softly reiterated, Uncle Wen. Why don't you believe me? Wen-su gazed at me, seemingly reassured that I was not lying, the color draining from his face inch by inch. When Ishwan squatted down, stroking my head, his gaze was clear and gentle, contrasting sharply with his brother's. Promise me, once the results are in, you'll return home with Uncle, all right? I shook my head, declaring, I am my father's daughter. I cannot return home with you. Upon hearing my words, Wen-su's previously rigid expression softened slightly. He fixated on me, the veins on his forehead bulging, and asserted, at the very least, I can ascertain that you are indeed my child. Beside us, my great-grandmother rapped her cane and huffed. Do not speak too soon, lest your expectations soar only to meet with greater disappointment. Nevertheless, her gaze towards the laboratory betrayed a flicker of anxiety and unease. My father approached, guiding me to a nearby chair. He retrieved a cup of water and my favorite snacks from his bag, adeptly feeding me while wiping my mouth. Did the blood draw hurt? He inquired. I nodded, mumbling, it hurt a lot. Please don't do it again next time. My father smiled. All right, I promise. There will be no next time. Wen-su observed the tender scene between father and daughter, yet his complexion turned somewhat ashen. The laboratory door swung open, and the professor emerged briskly, clutching a report, his expression grave. He frowned. The results are in, but what? My great-grandmother stood up, excitement coursing through her. Xian, Wen-su commanded in a low voice, go fetch the identification report for me. Understood. When Ishwan approached the professor and, after receiving consent, took the report, he stepped back, glanced down at it, and abruptly halted. What's wrong? Wen-su's tone grew impatient. When Ishwan bit his lip and handed the report to him, the moment he beheld the results, his breath quickened, blood vessels bursting in his eyes. The thin sheet of paper crumpled in his grip. The comment streamed in, light-hearted, yet biting. The smile vanishes. Now you know who the true heir is, don't you? Male lead. Ah. So it turns out I alone truly lost my dignity as a man due to the accident. The male lead desperately needs a bowl of loofah soup. Oh no, male lead, don't sulk. It makes you look shorter. You brought this upon yourself, didn't you? The basics of a green hat. Yet paternity testing is no trivial matter. My great-grandmother hurriedly leaned on her cane and approached, snatching the report from Wen-su's hands. She retrieved her reading glasses and carefully wiped the lenses before diligently studying the text of the identification report. Based on existing data and DNA analysis results, it is confirmed that Lu Jinghe is Shun Anyun's biological father. Her body stiffened. Everyone present was taken aback, including Lu Jingye and Wan Shi, their faces reflecting disbelief. Ayan is indeed. Uncle exclaimed, astonished. Father, I did not deceive you, I asserted earnestly. Ayan is truly your daughter. My father bent down to embrace me. His arms broad and warm, yet his voice trembled. It is my fault. I should have believed in Ayan sooner. I felt a dampness on my shoulder. Sighing with relief, I gently patted my father's back, asking, so, Ayan, can I stay after all?
Stay?
My father looked puzzled. An aged, trembling hand rested on my shoulder. I lifted my gaze to find my great-grandmother's murky, reddened eyes. It is my fault. I have wronged Ayan. She wept, her tears falling onto my hand. Ayan will go nowhere, nowhere at all. I beamed. Ayan is not wronged. Ayan loves father and great-grandmother. Lu Jingye cleared his throat. I added, and I love uncle too. He smiled and ruffled my hair. Noticing when Ishwan's downcast demeanor, I walked over and hugged him, saying, if brother doesn't he run away with Ayan, then Ayan will like brother too. He smiled softly and patted my head. All right then, brother it is. Oh, my dear sister. Is our happy life about to begin? Aunt can rest easy. You say you're not wronged, but how could you not be? You are still just a little child. Am I the only one who feels for my sister? She is only 5 and has endured so much. Sister has loved each person who loves her equally and has melted her brother's heart with her soft little head. Except for the male lead. Sister, stay away from me. Don't come near. Here, this is the paternity test report for little Ayan and Mr. Wen, the professor said with a hint of amusement. Having enjoyed the display, with wicked delight, he produced another report from behind. A glimmer of hope sparked in Wen-su's eyes. Yet, upon reviewing the identification results, That glimmer faded into despair. The testing process was conducted transparently and jointly by myself and the designated expert chosen by Mr. Wynne. Any inquiries, Mr. Wynne may have can certainly be addressed. When Sue lifted his gaze to me, his expression inscrutable. Did your mother ever mention me while she was alive? I pondered for a while before shaking my head in distress. A grim smile crept onto his lips. When Ishwan, looking concerned, said, "Thank you to everyone. My brother and I shall take our leave now." The midday sun blazed overhead as the three figures disappeared around the corner of the corridor. Someone murmured, "The eldest son of the Wynne family has fallen to such a state. His inheritance seems forever beyond his grasp." Yet, none of this mattered to me anymore. I turned to my father. "Daddy, can I ride the Disney roller coaster? I want to ride it with you." "Not possible, dear. You aren't tall enough."
The end.
Thank you for listening. We shall meet again in the next story.